Hello, welcome to Agile. Wait a minute, are we authors or world today?
Agile authors / world. I brought some backup with me.
I get the feeling I'm going to get ganged up on here. Hello, everyone.
Yeah.
How are you doing?
Hi.
Hello.
Hey,
Hi.
So so this is kind of a special edition because we've recently brought out a book together called Agile and Unexpected Journey, and for the fantasy fans amongst you may notice a slight homage to a famous writer from Oxford. But I'm not going to go into him too deeply, but rather focus on the authors we've got here today. But I think just before going in there, I just want to say, why did we do this book? It's kind of an odd thing to do a compendium of biographies. And it was just an idea that I had last year as we were coming into the 20th anniversary of the Agile Manifesto, that there's a lot of voices out there and a lot of practitioners of Agile that no one ever hears from. And they don't really know what they've learnt, how they've gone through their Agile journey and what they've achieved. And there's also this perception that there's one way to get into Agile and one way to do it and one way to live through Agile experiences with clients and with teammates. And actually there's a myriad of ways. And I think each person here will be able to show from what they've written that they've got their own way of going through there. And I'm hoping that that will be a support to all the other people out there who are adopting Agile. So who wants to go first in their explanation of how they responded when I asked them if they wanted to be part of a book? I think we've got Evelyn, you raised your hand there.
I'll just jump right in there. Well, firstly, Karl, thank you deeply for inviting me along to this journey. I was told, or it was highlighted to me a couple of years ago, that I should think about writing. Not because I'm a literary author, no, but more because of the work I had started to do and started to develop. I didn't share those practices in this chapter of the book, just because I didn't feel it was time yet. I'm still developing it, but it had already been highlighted to me. And so when you asked, would you like to participate, which I'm deeply grateful for, of course, I went, wow, okay, why not? Naively, I went, sure, it's just a chapter. It's not a book. It's just a chapter. It's just a chapter. Like, I mean, I write packs all the time. It's easy one, right? So, that was hard, especially when you're working, and it takes longer than you think. And it was a very cathartic experience. And I have a very big, deep appreciation to authors now, because it's really hard work. It's not easy to do. To tell a story in the written language. And also I'm slightly dyslexic, and I realized that whilst proofreading it like 100 times, reading it out loud, I still had a typo. There was still something wrong, but we got there, and then it got published, and wow, the feeling is immense. So I now have a little bug of like, oh, I want to try writing a bit more, but I'm going to manage it with my workload, because I was going through an enormous PR planning event at the same time as writing the chapter. So it was like a little intense, but outstanding. And I'm so grateful. And I'm honored to be in a book with all these other wonderful practitioners who got to share their biographies. I just think it's outstanding. So thank you so much. I'm just uber grateful.
You're welcome. Who wants to go next? Their story of writing their chapter. I may have to pick someone if you don't volunteer.
I think we should do what we are in Agile World. It's boy, girl, boy, girl. I think we should go boys. So I'm going to Craig.
Oh, okay.
Well volunteered, Craig. I saw that hand.
Thanks. Again, thanks to Karl for organising this. And I think that having somebody who's done this before has been a huge help. I've sort of looked into the idea because I first sort of thought about writing a book, not a biography, but about 3 years ago, the idea of writing a book sort of came to me, and then I thought, you know, I have a few things I could write about. It sort of then pivoted into developing content, testing it out in meetups and lightning talks, and then it became a talk, and thought that could then be the topic of the book and sort of take it from there. So I'd already been speaking to a couple of people who had published books before to say, well, what's the process? How do you go about it? And then Karl just came out and said, do you want to write a biography? And I thought, well, that's probably easier than the thing that I was thinking about writing about, because I just like scoot up and down LinkedIn and then there it was, right? But actually it turned out that the process was a little bit different to that, because when I started to then write the history, I could then see the bits sort of really slotted together because they were then quite similar. So then what I ended up doing is creating sections within the biography of things that they were the same. And then there was a change, and then there was another bit that was the same, and then there was whatever. So it sort of developed into like almost like a story. But then when I looked back at it, I went, all right, so there I am now, but then where did that really start? And then actually I was seeing like unexpected connections, saying, well, actually, you know, I mean, I got into Agile after a talk in 2006, but actually I was chatting to some of the Agile Manifesto authors in the same forum in 1994, because we were actually in the same space of object-oriented programming, which is where a lot of the authors came from, because that was a way of dealing with complexity. And it's like saying, like, there's all these connections sort of around, and then sort of bringing it out in the story of saying, well, and I did this in the past, and this had this effect in the future, and then I'm doing this now because of this thing in the past. So although there was clear sort of episodes within the journey and a progression, many of it is about failures and not using the right method in the right time, or using Agile thinking effectively. There was a sort of a development of kind of themes and connections in it. So it sort of brought that out, because I'd never actually seen that before. Because like when you go to LinkedIn or CV, you're just getting isolated episodes rather than a narrative. And I think that was the thing that for me, that then bringing it out into a slightly more of a narrative, seeing the connections, I could go, right, so what do I now do with that? So then at the end of it, I then tried to sum up the journey. But then I said, right, so what do I now learn from this? So now where does Agile sit in the space where it kind of, you know, has limitations and problems? And how do we then think about kind of expanding that out? So I started to think a little bit more strategically to say, well, and this is where Agile is, but then this is where kind of thinking is, so that we're not always reacting to problems. And that was, for me, was the illuminating part that came out. The actual writing process was again quite difficult, having not done that before. And I found myself wanting to sit down and just write for like sort of half an hour, just put it down. But then what would happen is, like, you know, I'd be out for a walk and I'd just get like a couple of words or a sentence, and I just like jot that down and then come back and just put that in and say, like, it's not much, but it's really important because it makes that bit make sense. So it was an accumulation of big bits of writing and then little bits of writing, and then adjusting it and making it all fit together. And it became quite an iterative process and quite complex, but really, really rewarding at the end of it. So that was it for me.
Well, I really enjoyed reading your chapter. Thank you very much. I might steal some of your ideas now in my next book.
We not put a rule in not to do that.
Oh, all right, okay. I won't do it. I'm just joking. It's just really interesting to see where people have come from in their thinking, because as I said at the outset, there's lots of different kinds of people in the world, and it should be accessible to anyone from any background. And the barriers that people put up are mainly their own. You know, people self-exclude because they think they're not good enough, they're not smart enough, they're not the right gender, they're not all different kinds of stupid reasons that we ourselves create not to do things. And I was just, you know, I think that kind of progression that you used in your chapter was really interesting. I didn't use it in mine because I thought I'll be here forever, but I liked yours because it made me think. You know, if I was writing a manual on how to learn, I'd probably use your format. So thank you. I will learn from it. I won't steal it.
That's what it's for.
Just to quickly remind anybody that's watching this video, is none of us have read each other's chapters yet. We only know
Just
what we've actually, well, other than Carl, who's put the book together. So we're all excited to actually get our books so we can read each other's chapters and actually read each other's journeys. I can't wait. We're just still waiting for the books. It's a shame we don't have them here. Maybe we have to do another video to go, hey, we got them.
So I think it's Grace's turn on
Yeah.
the format handed down by Sabrina.
Oh, it's great to be here. The joy and the gratitude, my gratitude knows no bounds. Seriously, it was a pleasant surprise. It was unexpected, like the title of the book. And I must say, you really know how to give titles, book titles. Really spot on. I would say my journey was really unexpected, like the title. I could just remember the day Carl sent me a LinkedIn message and could you send him a chapter? And I'm like, wow, are you for real? This sounds just like a lie. I kept shouting. I remember I sent you a voice note and I was screaming. You know, I fancied myself writing a book, but I never thought of it as being soon, sudden, probably in the next 5 years. I don't know, but it was just really unexpected. It was for me. I got into the agile space really 2020. So it's I felt at some point probably I wasn't supposed to be among the authors, but I also feel my journey is an interesting one. Being that where I'm coming from, basically Africa is actually imagining agile, and people are just really getting to know about what agile is, till up to now. If I make a post, I have a couple of people coming to ask me, what is agile? What do you mean by agile? And I just drop the hashtag, or I just drop a link to enable them probably go and read a bit and then give a little bit of explanation and then send them the manifesto, the link to the manifesto. Well, that's being mine. It's just being, I started as a project manager, and so all I had known all my work life was project management, be detailed, be in control, do this and do that. And then coming to know agile, basically getting into the space in last year, like middle of last year, and then I saw myself being on an Agile Journey Reflect. Basically, that's just been my very short journey. I'm not like Craig that has a lot, patterns, complexities, controversies, explanations, and all. So it's really fun. But I realized there was, just like Craig said, when you write, you realize there's some details you miss in your everyday life. But when you put it down in writing, the patterns you begin to see patterns, and really that's the interesting part of writing. And so I'm really grateful for this opportunity. I hope it's as short as it is. I had to cut down when you asked me again I had submitted in December, and then you asked for it in April again. I had to go back. I read the questions again, and I really cut down. And I'm like, you really have to stay within the questions, and so I cut down a lot from quite like 12, 13 pages. I cut down to 8 pages. And so I really hope it inspires somebody within my region, somebody within Asia or somewhere in the developed world that is still yet to know about Agile. It's a large space, it's a welcoming space. Agile is not dead. For me, Agile is just starting, right? Great. So thank you so much, Carl.
You're most welcome. It's good to hear that you're excited, and I think that was one of the things that came out of the Agile 20 Reflect, is that we want to hear new voices and young voices in Agile. It's not, if you were there in the room signing the manifesto, you was as welcome as the person that discovered it this week, because it's about possibility. It's not about ownership. So Mika, tell us about writing your chapter, because I know that you had interesting times when after you started. Tell us how it went.
That's true. Yes, it came like a surprise, and then I was thinking, like, me, writer, can that be happening? Yeah, maybe, but I was still thinking that what do I have time for that? Can I really produce some text for some book that takes time that much? Because I was just started my studies within the MBA, and then the airlines were in crisis, and then there were changes within the whole that scope, and I was like thinking, and well, okay, I'm a constant learner. Maybe I learned something from this also, and from that day on, I remember that I did send a message to Karl, and yeah, I'll try that, and let's go. And then I started thinking, okay, so what's the topic then, and how do I write this, and I was actually at the sauna and then throwing some water to the stones there, and then it hit me that maybe I can write this from my past, and I started thinking the things which I have been like going through earlier, and what were the connection points with the Agile, and how I have been grown within the Agile thinking. So it came clear for me. So it's like way of doing things, way of how I do things, basically. So it was a learning journey to myself, and also it provided some clarity for the future and what I want to achieve next. So from that perspective, thank you really much for the opportunity to do this. This was a really nice journey.
Good. I'm glad. So it's you know, doing all this during a pandemic has been crazy. And I know since you work in the airline industry that your life was thrown upside down like many other people, but very dramatically with everything shutting down. So thank you very much for participating. Sabrina, Mrs.
Wow.
Wordsmith.
So the first thing is, when you asked me, the first thing you know exactly what I said to you is, why on earth would you want me to get involved in writing a book? I am like the worst dyslexic person out there. But obviously I've had a separate journey with you, not just doing Agile World, but the other stuff we're doing. And you knew that I kind of set myself goals in 2020 and 2021. I kind of thought, we're in the middle of a pandemic. I'm having to stay home a lot, and I wanted to hit certain achievements. And doing this is actually another achievement to actually get myself out of my comfort zone. I've had fears for years about my writing. I only realized I was dyslexic around about 5 years ago, and it's held me back until I actually openly said to people, I'm dyslexic and I'm not going to let it stop me. So for that, having the opportunity to be able to write this chapter, it has been great for my confidence, but it also has proven to me that I've got more abilities than I actually realized. The second side of it was actually, like everyone else has said, going through your Agile journey. And one thing I always found weird with my career from like start to now is back in 2012, when I actually looked at my CV, I'd done so many different things. I could never work out how they would connect. And I do actually say this in my chapter. How can you connect from being in the call center to conference booking to PA? The biggest, weirdest jump is from PA to a networks engineer, which I worked to be able to do that. I mean, that's a weird jump. To then be in delivery, to then be in leadership, to then go and be a Scrum Master. And looking at my CV at first, I thought, well, how does any of this connect? And then actually I realized while writing my chapter, every single element I have done has actually helped me in my current career. Having that understanding within technology and engineering, helping me with my communication, and it all connected. And that was the biggest realization. Then I reiterated multiple times. I think, how many times did you get a message from me on a Sunday afternoon, Karl, saying I've scrapped everything I've written, I've rewritten it, I haven't written enough. And then bless my husband, because I still panic. And my husband actually read through it all, grammar checked it. And I even backed myself up and then told Karl to grammar check it, even after my husband. And yeah, it was an experience. But I'm like all of you, I've now got the bug and I want to be able to write and I want to do it. And I'm dragging Karl into another book.
Well, I won't be kicking and screaming. It's for me, the chapter I wrote was really interesting because it was quite cathartic for me. And at least half the people, I'm dyslexic as well, so asking me to spell check for you is probably not the best request. That I do rely upon machines, but also I was taught to read by viewing the space between letters. I don't see the letters at all. So I look at something and go, there's something not right with that. Then I'll do a spell check, and then I'll lift out the phrase and put it into Google to see what Google says is the problem with it, because I know there's something not right, but I just don't know what it is. So probably without computers, I wouldn't even have a job. But when I got to write my chapter, I was really thinking about why did I even get involved in Agile? Because it's for me, Agile is a very unexpected thing. I didn't, when I was a kid, I never ran to my mummy and dad to say, "Mummy, I want to be involved in Agile." Fly a plane, fire engine driver, that kind of stuff maybe, but Agile, it's not on the list of things. And I think Agile is kind of like a melting pot. But the reason I actually got into it in the first place was because I was irritated by it. I thought it was presumptuous, that it stole things from an area I really love, which is human-centered design and user experience, and seemed to turn them into nothing. So it took user stories and turned it into banalities and sort of very functional things, rather than the life and soul thing that they actually are. They are about the end-to-end journey of a customer and how they experience good and bad. I can't remember the last time I saw a backlog of Agile stories that had the unhappy path in them, yet that's part of the journey. And you can't really build pieces of software without understanding where the failure points are likely to be. Yet everyone does. So I think writing my chapter was a lot about where I was when I got involved in Agile, and some of the fantastic things that I saw and some of the horrific things that I saw. So you'll have to wait to read it. So please go out and buy. But I think what I really focused in on it was people. Agile is about people. Agile is not about technology. It is not a way to speed people up. It's not a way to categorize people. It's not a way to limit people. It's a way to make people happy, and a way to give people an opportunity to be involved in something greater than themselves. And I really like that about it. It's kind of counterproductive to the way people think about it now, because of the whole scaling thing. But I'll hold back on my views on that for the moment. I've been told by Sabrina not to.
Yeah.
But I think there's it's really important that it's Agile at its core is about vitality and about life and about opportunity and about hope. And that's really why I got involved with it, because for me it's complementary to user experience and human-centered design, which is again about liberty. It's about the opportunity we afford people, and how technology is an opportunity, not a limiting factor. So I think that's really what my chapter is about. It's about what we should be doing with it. And I do reference Prince because I was involved in Prince, but I reference stuff before Prince, which was pretty horrific. So yeah, I enjoyed writing it. It was hard work, so I had to think about how to put across my experience of becoming more focused on Agile than I am purely on a project. And I think that's quite an amazing experience. I feel like it feels kind of religious. I'm not saying it is, but it does feel that way, because you're it's kind of like freeing the slaves. Agile done right, you go into a new organization and you free the slaves. So it was good.
Well, thank you very much.
I had to agree with you, Carl. It's like a happy clappy when it's done right. It's like making people feel like they're on drugs and like ecstatic, and you're like, yeah, it's amazing, and it's great. Yeah, I agree.
Okay. So unfortunately, not the other 4 authors couldn't make it tonight for this film. Does any of the other authors want to say anything before we finish this short program?
Apart from saying thank you and please go and buy the book.
I think a big round of, I think we all need to give each other a round of applause on this, because
I'm looking forward to reading all the stories.
that's what I'm excited about.
Seriously,
We're all extremely busy people. We're all very career minded. We've all had so much to do. And the fact we've been able to get this out, I mean, it is unbelievable. So thank you very much, guys. So hopefully we might be able to get the other authors onto another one. But thank you very much, guys, for coming. I hope you guys enjoy this session and go buy the book. The links will be underneath the video. Thank you very much, everybody.
Bye.
Thanks.
thank
Bye.
you.
Bye bye.